Welcome and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to
Will Sinclair and the Real Truth About You podcast.
Well, hello there. Okay, I have to be honest in this podcast. I'm going through this cancer recovery process. Yes, I said it, cancer recovery. It's the tail end of summer 2016, and during this cancer recovery process, sometimes my health is not the greatest, and that's what it's been like in the past few weeks. So what I've done is I've put together a podcast, and this podcast is a bunch of thoughts. There were times when I was feeling a little bit better, and so I was able to record some thoughts down, and maybe those thoughts will touch you or affect you or influence you or do something with you. Hopefully not repulse you. And anyway, I've kind of joined them together. I'm going to join them together with some music in between each thought, that kind of thing. And I'm going to try it out. I've never done it this way before, but I am going to try it now, and so hopefully you will stay tuned with me. I think the show is about half an hour, something like that. I'm not sure quite how long it will take. But anyway, I'd love you to stay with me, and we'll catch you on the tail end. So thanks, and I'll see you next week. Well, I have to tell you a story of something that happened today, and it was one of those eat humble pie kind of stories. And I was on the phone, actually. I subscribed to this fax service that you can get online, and I haven't used it for over a year and a half, and I thought, I gotta cancel this stupid thing because I'm paying for it every month. And so anyway, most of the internet services that I have, you can cancel right online. You don't have to do anything particular. They might say, oh, why are you canceling or something? But this particular fax company, which the company itself was actually pretty good. The service was pretty good when I did use it. But I always count a company by the service they provide when things don't seem to be as great as they could be. Anyway, I'm just canceling this because I'm not using it. And I went to cancel it on my account, and most of my internet services that I subscribe to, you can cancel right on the account. Go online, go to your account, and they'll usually have some kind of way of canceling your account, no problem. This one didn't, and it said you had to email their billing department. And then so I emailed the billing department, and I waited for an email to come back. Finally, finally an email comes back, and it says, oh, you have to call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. And I'm like, oh my heavens. So anyway, I call this number, and I got to tell you this story because I'm on this phone, and it's first, and I have to kind of play it out a little bit so you get an idea what it's about. And so I call this number, and it's a 1-800 number, and then it says, welcome to this fax service. It says, please enter your fax number when you're asked for it. And then so I'm waiting, and there's a little bit of music comes on, and then it says, for customer service, press 1. For sales, press 2. So I press 1, and then there's a whole blank space. So I know I gotta punch in my fax number when it comes time. And I'm waiting, and there's no music, and then there's music, and then there's no music. And then it comes on the line again. It says, for this, press 1. For this, press 2. For this, press 3. For something else, press 4. Then there's a long pause. Then it says, to cancel your service, press 5. So I'm like, oh, heavens. So I press 5, and by now I'm just getting, I'm probably going to have to call my credit card company and just say, stop paying this company. And I'm getting kind of riled up. And I'm waiting. Please enter your fax number now. Oh, good heavens. So I punch in my fax number, and I'm waiting. And then it says, oh, please enter your 5-pin security digit code. And I'm like, what? I didn't get one. And it says, oh, the last 4 numbers of your credit card. So now I have to go fumble for my credit card that I use for this fax service, and it's in my wallet on the coffee table. I'm not by the coffee table. So anyway, I come back to the phone, and it's in the meantime it's saying, "I'm sorry, we don't understand your input. I'm sorry, we don't understand your input." Then click, brr, and I'm like, "Oh, I have to do this all over again?" So anyway, I get my credit card, and now I know I gotta have my credit card and my fax number. So I get back on the phone, wait and go through all the selections. And it's not like a lot of companies will say, "One moment, please." Right? It wasn't anything like that. It was just like pauses and long. And I'm like, oh, good heavens. They're making this so difficult for me. And so finally, I get to the point where I can enter the last 4 digits of my credit card number. And so it gives me, it reads back to me those 4 digits, and I'm happy. And then, except I'm really frustrated. I'm happy I got to do it, but I'm frustrated it's taking so long to do this. And so finally, I've finished doing all this stuff they've asked me to do, and I'm waiting. And there's a little bit of music, and there's nothing like, "Oh, your call is important to us. Please stay on the line while we wait for another representative." Nope, none of that. It's like a combination of music, no music. A little bit of music, no music. Finally, I get this guy on the phone, and I can't remember what his name was, and of course, he has some kind of accent or whatever. And so I'm assuming I'm talking to a call center somewhere else in the world. And so he's talking to me, and then he says, "One moment, please." And I'm like, oh, good heavens. And I'm getting more and more riled up. Then he comes back on the line and says, "Just a few more seconds, please." And I'm like, how long is this going to take? And so finally he's back on the line. I could barely hear him. And I can understand him a little bit, but I can't hear him very good. But anyway, he asked me for my fax number, and I says, "Well, I just entered all that information." And he says, "Can I please have your fax number?" And so I just gave it to him. And then he asked me for the last 4 digits of my credit card. And then he says, "So, how can I help you with some excellent customer service today?" And I'm like, oh, good heavens. And I'm getting so riled up. And then finally, as I'm talking to him and say, "I want to cancel my account," and blah, blah, blah. But this time I really want to cancel my account. And all of a sudden, something comes back into my head. And I'm like, you know how you say something and then you got to live it? It's like, or you eat it. It's like humble pie. Well, I remember in episode 2, podcast episode 2, and it says, when I say, this is me talking, and I'm saying when you get into that lineup with the grocery store and they don't have enough tellers on or cashiers on and things like that, or a waitress is really grumpy to you or whatever, but it says just breathe. Just breathe. Take a moment and come back into yourself and get back to that point of peace. And I'm like, oh, good heavens. So I goes, okay. Okay, calming down. And then all of a sudden, I think it was episode 3. I think that was episode 2. And then episode 3 was about how a smile changed a life. And it was a story of June. And it was about how when a waitress is grumpy with you, or something's not going, you don't know what their day is like. You don't know what kind of life they've led, and how your facial expressions and the things that you do affect somebody else. So all of a sudden I start to think of, I don't know his life, and it's not his fault. He's just got a job and he's answering the phone, and I'm like, oh. So finally I calmed down, and I spoke nicely, and I was courteous, and then he was very polite back. Then finally the account got cancelled, and he gave me the confirmation number, and I said, "Thanks, have a great day." So I want to tell you, that was a little humble pie, and I just had to share that with you because I said it, and now I have to live it. And so it's this whole thing about, trying to live what you know to be true, and trying to be the best you can be. And it's not always straight lace. It's not always, wow, baby, this is existential. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I'm such a new person now. And no, it's not like that at all. At least I don't find it like that. Maybe you do. I don't find it like that at all. I find myself going along in my day and things come up. It's like when you pray for patience. I've heard this. And when you pray for patience, God doesn't give you patience. He gives you situations to try your patience. So, hey, take my advice. Don't pray for patience. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, so things in life don't always come the way you want them to come. And sometimes you have to go back and you have to try to live the things you know to be true. Right, and that's what I have to do every day. So I'm just encouraging you to do the same thing as you go about your day. Maybe think back if something pops into your head, oh, I should be nice. Well, then be nice, okay? If that's what you need. You know, it's a learning curve, and life is a learning curve. And we just apply things daily. You fail, fine, okay? Get up and keep walking. And you might have failed a battle, but you haven't lost the war. Just keep going. Just keep working on being the best that you can be. Be true to yourself. Don't stuff things down. Say, oh, no, okay, I'm going to stuff that. I'm going to stuff it. There it goes. I don't need it anymore. Okay, good. Stuffed. I'm good. I'm all right. Everything's fine. No, that's not how it works. Be aware that you felt like you felt. Be aware that you felt mad, felt angry, felt ticked off, or whatever it is that something just niggled at you. Just be aware of that. Own it and move on, right? Own it, move on, and deal with it as it comes up again or as it goes, right? Just keep going. Life is a journey, and it's not about the end goal so much as it is about the journey, right? The journey is the whole thing, so enjoy the journey. So I want to talk to you about a real situation, but I've changed the names. The names are fictitious, but the situation is real. And a friend of ours had called the other day with a problem. And the reason I'm sharing this example with you, this life example, is because I've been talking about awareness and I've been talking about a number of different things. So I want to place it into a practical example. And sometimes it's really helpful to get a practical example. So here's the story anyway. The story is that our friend, I'm going to call her Marge, and her husband Derek, and they've got a friend called Barb. And so Marge calls and she says, I've got a problem. She says, I just blew up at Derek on the phone. He was at work. And because he had posted something on a social media site that might have been a little bit inappropriate to another woman, and it wasn't anything bad, right? But he was just being himself. It was funny, but Marge thought it was inappropriate for their relationship, and her friend Barb had texted her and told her about this thing and this post, and said maybe that Marge should watch out for her relationship. Well, Marge kind of feels a little bit secure in her relationship, but she kind of got really mad at Derek. And so anyway, she called me and she says, the thing is, it's like, yeah, it upset me. The whole thing upset me, what he did. But she goes, I never yell at him like that. I never yell at him like that on the phone. We usually talk things out. They don't have the greatest relationship all the time, but here's what came from that whole conversation, right? So if you were to take the post that Derek made, and what appropriate or not, if you were to not place any judgments on it and just place it as is, right, as it is, that it just happened, and not place any kind of judgments, like I said, and not condemn or anything like that, or say, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that or whatever. But the fact that it happened, okay? So when you look at things as it is what it is, right? So we look at Derek, and he put this post on. If he had not put that post on, then Barb wouldn't have seen it and called Marge or texted Marge and told her about it. So if Derek hadn't put it on, Barb wouldn't have texted Marge, and Marge wouldn't have gotten mad at Derek. So this cycle here, right? So, but what came out of the whole thing was that Marge was actually hiding the fact that she wasn't happy in her relationship. And not because Derek wasn't being the best husband he could be. We all have areas we can grow in. He was just being himself. But he wasn't capable of loving her or showing her the love that she wanted. Not that he didn't love her, but he couldn't show her the love that she wanted. And she would see it in highlights in other people's relationships or in movies and things like that and want that. But the real truth that came down to it is that she didn't love herself. Marge did not love herself. And so it doesn't matter how much people loved her, it would never be enough. It would never be enough. Derek could never love her enough. It would just not be enough for her because she would always be craving the love that she doesn't have for herself. And now inside of us, inside of each one of us, there is that spark. There is that light. There is that divine. I call it God. God is in each one of us, like that light, that candle that we cover up. And we cover up and we cover up. So until we can't see it anymore. There is perfection inside of us. The perfect us is right there. The perfect love that we need for ourselves is there. The perfect love that we need for the world is there. The perfect self-image is there. The perfect everything about us, everything that we need to validate ourselves is there inside of us already. When we were born in perfection. We were born with God inside of us. We had no inhibitions. We had no coverings. We hadn't judged ourselves. We hadn't been told we were ugly or told that we're not going to get played with or told we were stupid or told we were awesome or told we were anything that could affect our ego. We hadn't placed any coverings on top of that light. And I'm just using light as a metaphor for God. That perfection that we had when we were born was there already. There's a story about that Richard Rohr talks about a 4-year-old boy, and his parents have his mom has another baby, and he wants to go talk to the baby, and so the mother and the father says okay, but he says no, I want to talk to him by myself. And so they say, okay. And so they just kind of listen in the door as the child goes into the bedroom and talks to the baby and says, quick, tell me where I came from. I'm beginning to forget. And I think a lot of times we forget where we came from. We forget what's actually in us, that perfection, that beauty. So anyway, what Marge is doing, because over her lifetime, she'd covered up so much of that perfection. She'd covered up so much of that self-love, so much of that appreciation for herself, her humanity, her divinity with God. She'd covered so much of that up that she was craving an imitation of that. She was craving that love that she'd covered up and sought it out in imitations. So it doesn't matter how much her husband loved her. To her, it was an imitation of the love that was already in her, but just covered up. And an imitation is never as good as the real thing. Something else that came out of that whole scenario was that she associated herself with friends who were all separated from their partners. And when she came into that awareness, she realized it's because she wanted to validate herself by being someone who's already married and amongst people who had lost their partners for one reason or another. They're separated. So it was like she was the kingpin in her mind, or she was the big fish in the small pond. She wasn't content with being a fish, or being in a bigger pond, or being a small fish. She wanted to be the big fish in the small pond because she needed that to validate herself. That awareness came from the situation. The other awareness that came from the situation is, for some reason, and she didn't have the reason for that yet, was that she felt people were going to leave her. She felt that if she's not good with her friends will leave her and she'd be alone. If she wasn't good with her husband, he'd leave her and she'd be alone. So that was something else that came into that awareness. And God will show her why that is. But most of it stems from us covering up what we already have inside. That greatness that is God. And so, from that conversation with Marge, she went through the process of apologizing to Derek for the way she talked to him. Right? She felt that was part of her way of reconciling and getting back to just talking. Right? And if he had not posted that on social media, Barb would never have seen it. Then Barb would never have texted Marge. And Marge would never have called me. And I wouldn't have been able to share the things that I shared with her. Plus, someone else that evening had shared almost exactly the same thing with her about the perfection that was inside of her, but was totally unrelated to this whole scenario. She said to me, "You're the second person tonight that has said that." Wayne Dyer says that when the student is ready, and I keep repeating this, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear. And that could be this whole situation that happened, the scenario that happened that needed to pry open what needed to be pried open in her life so that she can become aware of things to help her to move forward. Those teachers could be something you see on TV. Those teachers could be this podcast. Those teachers could be a magazine article or one word you see graffitied on a wall. You don't know what it is. But God knows whether you use words or not when you're ready and desiring to move forward in your life. If you hadn't become aware of things, you would still be in the status quo. If you hadn't become aware that you were getting angry, you would still be in the status quo. You'd still be in the field of unknowing, not knowing that you need to move forward, that there's a deeper call in your life to reconnect with the God within you, that divine that you may have covered up. When you act out of love, then that is like pinholes that are just shining out through that divine that's in you. Through all the coverings, there's some way that light is getting through. So don't give up hope. What Marge decided to do, even though it was kind of tough and it'll take time, but as Marge decided she has to go through the process of learning how to uncover, learning to discover or rediscover her true self. When you know that perfection is within you, when you know that God is already within you, that your humanity connected to your divine is your soul, and you live that soul out in fullness. When you come into that awareness, you will find that everything comes with it. You will find that when you come into that awareness, when you go through that process of uncovering, that everything good comes with it. Richard Rohr talks about the farmer who found a field somewhere and had a buried treasure in it. And he went out and bought that field so that he could have the treasure. And that's a parable that Jesus spoke in the Bible, the Christian Bible. We are that field, and within that field is a treasure. And we need to sell everything we can and do everything we can to get to that treasure within us. But it's a process. It is a process. It's like if you have a car and you know you want to use that car to drive from where you are to where you want to go, but you don't know how to drive the car. Even though you have the car or the process is there, you have to learn how to drive it. You have to physically learn how to open the door, how to get in, how to start it, and where the pedals are and what they do and all the things. That's the same thing as a process of uncovering. For me, I've been on a journey through meditation and contemplation. I've connected with various teachers like Richard Rohr, who's a Catholic priest, with Wayne Dyer, who's very much into God consciousness and Jesus consciousness. I've been connected with people like the Deepak Chopra, who I'm not necessarily saying that I believe everything that each one of them says. I believe a lot of what Richard Rohr says. But there are some truths, some very real truths in each one that is common to all. And if there's a truth that is common to all, and we're all living that truth, and people are talking about that truth, and poets are talking about it, and science is talking about it, everybody talks about something that is in you that is greater than yourself. And I believe that something is God. And so you need to go through that process, like I've gone through the process of meditation, contemplation, of discovery, of reading, of whatever I need to do to help myself become more aware, to become more knowledgeable, and then apply that knowledge through practice, through bringing it to my heart, and then bringing that forth into my life. And what we're really bringing out is love. Because when you live in love, you live and act through God, and in God, and with God. Anyway, I am in the process of going through that journey. I'm also in the process of helping you to start that journey if you haven't yet started that journey. I mean, your journey's been going all your life, don't get me wrong. And you've come into awarenesses, but you may not have realized what to do with them. So I am in the process with some others of putting together a program, a process that you can go through. And depending on when you're listening to this, it may be available now or it may be available in the near future. But I will definitely keep you posted as to when this comes about. It's something that I believe has to be evoked by the divine and brought about by the divine. And so it'll be in divine timing. But you will definitely know about it. So I would encourage you to embark on the journey of self-discovery, to discover your true self, which I believe is God within you. And not to keep following your false self, which is your ego, which tries to mislead you. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Ego is not a bad thing. Your false self is not a bad thing. But you really need to ground yourself in your true self. So let's embark upon that journey. Let's do it together. And let's just go. Let's say yes, continually say yes, because it's a daily endeavor. And let's run together. Let's walk together. Let's sit together. Let's meditate together. Let's contemplate together. Let's journey together. My wife is an awesome person. I have to tell you this story that she shared with me about almonds. She went to the grocery store, and we live 2 hours away from a big major center. So whenever we get a chance to, we always go to this major center for groceries, because you get the bulk of your groceries there and you get a better price. But whatever. The point is, she was in this big super grocery store, and she has an issue with spending money she doesn't feel like she has to spend. And so she won't spend money on certain things. And I'm not just talking about being frugal or being smart. Sometimes, and I know she doesn't mind me sharing this, she has a sense of lack in her life, regardless of how many blessings she's gotten or what kind of money we have. She has a sense of lack sometimes. And we've always actually put ourselves in positions where the jobs that we get or that I get don't pay the greatest, or we do a lot of like ministry work where we're more helping people and roles like that, which don't always pay the greatest. And so whether it's something she's developed over time that we have to be really frugal with money or whatever, but she's developed this sense of lack. So I would say to her, and during my cancer recovery, I would say, you need to get away from me. You need to go visit friends or whatever, go visit your family, or just to get away from me, because all she hears all day is me saying things. This is 2016 anyway, is things like, oh, well, I slept not bad, but this aches or this hurts, or, oh, I just can't breathe as good as I was, and wow this and wow that, and, and oh, I feel better, but that kind of thing. So she hears this kind of stuff all day, every day. And I know a lot of women will say, well, that's because you're a guy. Guys are like that. Anyway, but whatever. So she has that she's developed because of our income. She'll say, no, I can't really afford to go anywhere. I don't want to spend any money, or this or that, or even sometimes buying a donut or something. She goes, no, I don't want to spend the money, and things like that. And it's not necessarily because you don't have it, but she has this sense of lack that it might not get replaced, the money. And that is something that she's working with in her life right now. That's one of the journeys that she's going through. But the funny thing is, and the point about this whole thing is that she went to the grocery store, and now she's on this health kick. I don't know if you call it a kick. She's decided that she's really going to watch what she eats, and she's really going to lose some weight. And we're both a little bit, like a lot of people in our age group over 50 can probably lose a bit of weight. But anyway, the point is, she goes to the grocery store, and without even a consideration of how much they cost, she buys almonds. She likes almonds, and she never usually buys them, but now she's on this health movement, right? To eat better, she's like ferociously in it. And so she went, and the first thing she picked up was almonds, right? Regardless of how much they cost, she bought bulk almond nuts. But the funny thing is she came out of the store and she can't find the nuts anywhere amongst her groceries. And she knows she put them in her cart, and she came home and we unpacked everything, and there's no almonds. There's no nuts there. And she's like, for like 3 days, she's like, I don't understand where those almonds went. And she went through her invoice, her receipt, her checkout receipt. There's no almonds on there. And I'm saying, you sure you didn't put them in somebody else's cart? Because she did that before without realizing it. She started putting her groceries. She left her cart at one part of the aisle and then went to another part and started loading her groceries off the shelf into somebody else's cart. It was funny. But anyway, no almonds. She didn't even buy any almonds. And she's puzzled where these almonds went. What's the point of the story? It was actually funny, but the point of the story is nothing to do with almonds. The point of the story is that she wouldn't spend money on things until all of a sudden she became very passionate about losing weight, about eating healthy. She became passionate about it. And so immediately, with that passion fueling her, she went to the grocery store, and regardless of how much it cost, in her mind, she had to fulfill the goals of this passion. And so she went ahead and just paid whatever the price was, although she didn't actually get them, for almonds without a second thought, without a consideration. And so why I'm sharing this is a lot of times in life, we go through and we'll go through just the day-to-day mundane things. And we look at our life and we try to evaluate where we're at, and some of us are living the dream of what we've always wanted to do. We always wanted to be a pilot, so we're a pilot. Or we always wanted to be a plumber, so we're a plumber. Or we always wanted to live this lifestyle, so we are, right? But for most of us, we don't live in that passionate world. You need passion to drive yourself forward sometimes, and many times, especially when you get into things like business or your job, your career. What is it that wakes you up in the morning? When things are so mundane, like I can only refer to in particular in business, when they talk about business and starting your own business, whether it's an online business, a home-based business, or a part-time business, or whatever it is, it's the advice that most entrepreneurs who are successful give you is find first, and then follow your passion. If you just go with what seems to be working for other people, you will never drive forward and do what you're meant to do. If you are being a plumber, but you really want to be a doctor, plumbing will not do it for you. Plumbing will just not satisfy that itch. Plumbing will just not be the thing that a doctor is. You need to follow your passion. And I always tell people, now that I've worked since I was 16 years old and I'm 56 now, and it's 2016, I always tell people that what I've discovered is when you follow your passion, even if your passion doesn't pay off the dividends or the finances that another passion might pay off, in the end, you will make more money. In the end, you will make more money. You will be happier. Whether you're an artist trying to sell your work, and it's really hard for artists and photographers and people like that, and songwriters and people who are creatives to sell their work because there's so much competition. But when you really work at it and you follow your passion, you will look for and allow doors to open. You will seek things that move you forward because it's your passion. When you don't want to get up in the morning because you don't want to do the mundane things, your passion for your industry will drive you forward. One of the things I love to do is photography. And not just photography, but I love to do what's called wall art or photographic art or digital art, whatever it's called. I can't paint like an artist. I wish I could. But so I'm a photographer, and I love photography, and I allow my camera to become my canvas, and I love the certain tools of the trade, the digital tools like my iPad or my computer and programs to become my brushes and things. And I love turning my images into some kind of art. Well, that is awesome, and I do sell my images online, but I love taking the pictures. I love turning the process of turning them into art. I love that creative process. That drives me forward. But then I have to take these images, I have to name them, I have to apply descriptions to them, I have to resize them for online and printing, and then I have to upload them to the company that sells it for me. And those are all the kind of things that are mundane and I hate to do. But because I'm passionate about photography and art and all that kind of stuff, it drives me forward to upload, to apply descriptions, to do all the mundane things that I have to do to continue this industry. It's the same as podcasting. I love to podcast. I love to talk, right? I love to share. I love to help people. But in reality, when you podcast, you also have to adjust the sound. You have to, once you're done, you have to do what's called conditioning. So you have to make it sound good. You have to apply certain software filters and things like that to try and make it sound as clear and crisp and nice. Then you have to upload it to a syndication company that sets them all out. You have to put all your descriptions together, your titles, and all the work that goes into that, and any research. And so that's all the mundane stuff. But it's the getting the message out. It's the passion of being able to help other people that moves me forward. So I would encourage you to work with your passion and work with your strengths. Don't work with your weaknesses. I took a desk job once and hated it. It's just not my thing. Being at a desk constantly does not work for me. I also took maintenance jobs all through my life because I thought that was the thing to do. Even my mother tried to persuade me. That's not my thing. It just drained me so much. Creativity is my strength. People are my strength. Working with people is my strength. Creating new ideas. Delving into new possibilities. I am great at getting a project off the ground, but don't ask me to keep it running. That's not my strength. Getting it off the ground is my strength. So find your passion. Discover your strengths, and there's lots of ways you can do that online. And then move with that. Move into your passion. And don't care about what other people say. And don't try to be like other people. Don't try to emulate what other people's success is. Be yourself. Oscar Wilde said, "Be yourself because everyone else is taken." And I just love that saying. Be yourself because everyone else is already taken. Find your own voice in life. Whether that voice is being a police officer, whether that voice is preaching to people, working with the poor, delving into business, being at home, being a parent, being an artist, whatever that voice is, use your voice. Find your voice, your passion, be yourself, and move forward.
Did you know your relationship is everything you as a couple choose it to be? Those are choices you make, big or small, every day, depending on the circumstances you find yourselves in. Every day your partner may do something that could irritate or hurt you. How you respond to that is your choice. For the many years William and I have been married, one thing we both know for sure is, like many women, I can get extremely emotional. This may include being weepy, irritable, or just downright miserable. I remember one night in particular when their hormones were running a little out of whack. The kids had to be bathed and put to bed, dishes needed to be done, and I was going out of control. I could hardly stand myself. I remember William telling me, "Edrina, just go to your room." I was so furious he said that, and I believe a few choice words left my mouth. However, I chose to remove myself from the situation to keep peace and sanity in my home. William then had to pick up the slack with the household duties so I could get my space. This situation could have ended in disaster, but that night I am grateful I was able to make a choice to love my family more than escalate my own frustrations. At our wedding, we were given a small plank of driftwood to hang at our back door. Carved on it were the words, "I'm third." It meant this: my partner first, my kids second, and me third. It doesn't mean you're always last or that your desires don't get met. It means you choose to put your partner's needs before yours, and they are doing the same. Realize that everyone is imperfect, and you will never have a perfect relationship. Today, look at the choices you have been making. Can you make a change for the better?
So I'm Will Sinclair, and you've been listening to The Real Truth About You. Get more information, more episodes, all that kind of stuff from our website at www.therealtruthaboutyou.com. And thanks for listening and to this little quickie moment. And I'll talk to you later, and I look forward to meet you in another show. Remember, leave comments, your discussion points, whatever you want. Live your life. Have fun. See you in the next show.